For thousands of years, human beings have suffered from a massive superiority complex. We look around at the world we have built and assume that we are the absolute masters of nature. We believe that we took the wild, chaotic earth and bent it to our will. We took the terrifying gray wolf and selectively bred it over millennia until it became the golden retriever sleeping at the foot of our beds. We took wild aurochs and bred them into docile dairy cows. We took wild boars and turned them into farm pigs. We believe that domestication is a one-way street. Humans give the orders and nature submits. But there is a glaring 10-pound exception sitting right in the middle of our living rooms. The story of the dog is a story of a desperate, mutual survival partnership. The dog was a project. We broke them down and rebuilt them to serve us. But the story of the cat? The cat is a biological heist. We never selectively bred them to work for us. We never taught them to hunt on command, to herd our flocks, or to guard our homes. They do not owe us their existence. To understand the greatest evolutionary trick ever played on humanity, we have to go back roughly 10,000 years to the Fertile Crescent in the Middle East. This was the dawn of the agricultural revolution. For the first time in human history, we stopped wandering, we stopped hunting and gathering, and we started planting. We built the first permanent settlements, and we harvested massive, unprecedented amounts of grain. But this monumental leap in human progress created an immediate, terrifying biological crisis. When you stockpile thousands of pounds of wheat and barley in one place, you are essentially building a beacon for rodents. House mice and rats, which had previously lived in small, sparse populations in the wild, suddenly found a limitless paradise of calories. Their populations exploded into the billions. This wasn't just a nuisance, it was an existential threat. A massive infestation of mice could consume a village's entire winter food supply in a matter of weeks. The rodents brought disease, they destroyed the crops, and they threatened to collapse the very foundation of early human civilization. Humans were desperate. We had no traps, no pesticides, and no predators small and fast enough to deal with the threat. And then, out of the desert, stepped Felis sylvestris libica, the African wildcat. The African wildcat was a highly territorial, solitary, and notoriously aggressive micropredator. By every rule of biology, they should have stayed far away from human settlements. Humans are loud, large, and incredibly dangerous apex predators. For millions of years, the wildcat's survival strategy was to remain invisible in the brush. But the sheer density of the rodent population in human villages altered the wildcat's biological calculus. The calories available inside the human camps were simply too massive to ignore. So, the boldest wildcats crept closer. They slipped into the grain silos at night. They hunted the mice, and humans did something completely unprecedented. We did absolutely nothing. When humans saw wolves creeping near the camp, we threw spears at them. When humans saw bears, we killed them. But when early farmers saw these small, silent predators systematically annihilating the rats that were eating their winter survival rations, they made a silent pact. They let the cats stay. This was not domestication. This was commensalism, a biological relationship where one species benefits and the other is neither harmed nor helped. The cats were not doing us a favor. They didn't care about our grain. They were simply exploiting a hunting ground that we accidentally built for them. We did not put them in cages. We did not control their breeding. We just gave them a warm place to sleep and let them operate. Over dozens of generations, the wildcats realized something profound. Humans were incredibly dangerous to other animals, but they were remarkably docile toward cats. The cats that were slightly less aggressive toward humans didn't have to waste energy running away every time a farmer walked by. They could sleep in the rafters. They could raise their kittens near the warmth of human fires. They began to domesticate themselves. But here is the detail that truly baffles modern geneticists. When we domesticated wolves, we fundamentally altered their DNA. We changed their skeletal structure, their brain chemistry, and their digestive systems. But in 2017, a massive genomic study sequenced the DNA of hundreds of ancient cats, including Egyptian cat mummies and remains from Viking ships, and compared them to the modern house cats living today. The results were staggering. The DNA of a modern house cat is almost entirely indistinguishable from the DNA of a wildcat roaming the deserts of the Middle East 10,000 years ago. We did not change their software. We did not change their hardware. A tabby cat sleeping on a modern sofa is genetically identical to a prehistoric apex predator. The only significant genetic difference scientists could find between wildcats and house cats was a minor mutation related to the neural crest, which slightly affects coat color and makes them slightly less terrified of humans. That is it. They never lost their wild instincts. They never lost their ability to survive without us. If If we didn't change their genetics, how did they seamlessly integrate into the center of human society? Because while they didn't change their DNA, they brilliantly adapted their behavior to manipulate human psychology. In the wild, adult cats almost never meow at each other. Feline communication is mostly chemical, based on scent marking and visual. The only time a wildcat meows is when it is a helpless kitten trying to get the attention of its mother. But as cats began living alongside humans, they realized that humans are highly visual and auditory creatures. We don't communicate through scent, we communicate through sound. More importantly, the cats stumbled upon a neurological vulnerability in the human brain. The acoustic frequency of a cat's meow perfectly overlaps with the frequency of a human baby crying. When a cat meows, it bypasses our logical processing and directly triggers the mammalian caregiving instinct in our brains. They weaponized infant vocalizations to force us to feed them, pet them, and open doors for them. They are not talking to us. They are hacking our neurological hardware. They also developed the purr. A cat's purr occurs at a frequency between 25 and 150 hertz. In human medicine, these exact sound frequencies have been shown to improve bone density, repair tendons, and lower blood pressure. When a cat sits on your chest and purrs, it is essentially running a biological healing frequency that physically calms your nervous system, ensuring that you remain docile and protective of them. Think about the sheer audacity of the cat. Every other domesticated animal had to surrender its freedom to survive alongside us. Horses were broken to the saddle. Cows were fenced into pastures. Dogs were bred to guard our property, fetch our prey, and die in our wars. They gave up their wild heritage to become a part of the human world. The cat gave up nothing. They watched humanity build the greatest civilization the planet had ever seen. They watched us clear the forests, invent agriculture, build cities, and conquer the globe. And they looked at all of this exhausting, backbreaking human labor and decided it would make an excellent, highly convenient hunting lodge. You do not own a cat. You cannot own a creature that never surrendered its wildness. You are simply hosting an ancient, unmodified predator that has decided for the time being that your living room is a comfortable place to sleep. They didn't just trick us into letting them inside. They convinced us to worship them in ancient Egypt, carry them across the oceans on our ships, and build an entire modern industry of toys and premium food dedicated to their comfort. They executed the most successful biological infiltration in the history of the earth, and they did it without ever changing who they are.